Hey guys, welcome to the basement, my new machine shop-ish area. Today I've got something kind of cool to show. As of sometime earlier today, this is officially a thing that I can talk about now. This is the Voron Cascade CNC. I was lucky enough to get into the beta program for it and built mine earlier this year, I think, maybe last winter. Unfortunately, I just haven't really had a whole lot of time to play with it, but yeah, I just noticed something. Arrows was disconnected. So this is an open source 3D, CNC. I don't know if it's a router or a mill, but as you can see, it's got fully enclosed except for a little bit of area on the top. Mine is not 100% stock, so I am running a beefier spindle at 220 volts. This is the spindle that's LEO cells for the Millennium Milo. I have put some time on it, but I really just haven't had time to really dial it in and learn the process for it very well. So it's a, I think, 1500 watt spindle that can run at 24,000 RPM or something. Don't quote me on that. This is the Sonner Machines Works vise and fixture plate. Otherwise, mechanically, it's fairly stock. I do have an air blast installed on it, which is super helpful, I found. And that's all plumbed in over here. So this gets air from my main compressor and regulates it down. And then this is a solenoid. And I added this extra air hose so I can, when I've actually got, pressure on this, which I don't right now, I can, when this isn't in use, I can use it to blow off parts. Electronically, let's see, so we've got a 10-inch touchscreen. I think this might be changed for a larger one. I'll be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of this. It's just kind of clunky and I have a hard time seeing it. So I've plumbed in an extra, like 21-inch cheap monitor with keyboard and mouse. Electronically, so we've got a fully enclosed electronics panel. I'll open it up with, obviously I know what I'm doing. Inside, again, mine's not completely stock because I'm running at 220 volts and I've laid out the electronics base slightly differently and added a few mods. So it's powered primarily by the LDO. Sorry, I can't remember the name of this. It's not the Kraken. Anyway, whatever board that is that LDO sells. I hope that's LDO. I'm not saying that wrong. This is the VFD that came with the spindle, or it was recommended for the spindle. It's 220 volt. I don't have it in full feedback mode right now, so it's open loop. You can set a desired speed and it will basically just send a signal to go to that speed, but it won't control it necessarily. I'm running a Raspberry Pi 5, mostly because of the extra oomph it gives for running the applications. Normally, I think this area is allocated for stepper drivers, discrete stepper drivers, but since I'm running this board instead of one of the others, I don't need those. And this would normally be up here, which just is sort of inconvenient. So I added these 2020 extrusions and some DIN rails to space everything out and add that. Otherwise, it's got a main 48 volt power supply, which runs all the steppers. Obviously, this is 220, going to whatever, I assume 220 that thing runs. It's a brushless spinner, I don't really know. And then there's a couple of other 24 and a 5 volt power supply. And one thing that I did that I wasn't wild about with the stock is that it was running just a 24 volt fan. It was a lot cheaper, and I had parts to run a 12 volt regulator and a 12 volt Noctua fan. So that's about all there is here. The one thing I did also different is on this back panel here. This is set up for Ethernet. I don't have an Ethernet network. So I changed it to use this HDMI pass-through, and then there's a short HDMI that runs back there. Cable organization on this thing is really critical. There's a lot of wires, so it runs just a ton of Wagos. And yeah, it does have an emergency stop button. This is stop, hold, and run. So this is these are software control buttons. It's got a tool setter, a 3D touch probe, which was probably one of the most challenging things to set up. Hopefully that's all resolved now. I've got some notes on how to do it, and I'm gonna try to post those. It runs, so this is a 3-axis machine. You've got your Z here. I don't remember the exact travel distance on any of this stuff, but all the 3 axes are limited by these inductive proximity probes from Voron. And then there's linear rails underneath this cover. I wasn't really sure how these were supposed to be mounted. I think they're supposed to just be double-sided taped in place, but I added some aluminum on this front one so I can get into that and clean it out easily. And then, yeah, one thing that's still not working on mine is this light. I just need to figure out how to configure it in the software, I think, or maybe I wired it wrong. This is a micro switch that theoretically should only let it run when it's in, when the cover's installed. It runs, they're kind of awkward to see, 3 fairly beefy stepwers. That's the Z-axis one. And then, yeah, that's the, I think X-axis, and the Y-axis is down there. All at 48 volts, like I said. So I'm running G-Sender. This is probably outdated now. It's pretty in flux as far as software. I can go ahead and home the machine, and theoretically it should work. I haven't used this in a while. So it just bonked across to the right. It's bonking up. Well, yeah, it's already homed, so it really didn't do much there. That was sort of silly. So now I can control over here with this dial and jog it around as I need to. There's also, I think, there's a way to do keyboard shortcuts, but I don't remember it. One of the weird things to me, and it's just getting your brain around it thing. Oh, I locked the machine. I have to do something sort of silly here. I have to, since I don't have the cover on, you have to hold that lock switch down and then hit the unlock button that was showing up in here. So it took 2 hands. So the Y-axis is really confusing if you're used to, I don't know, it's just confusing to me. If you think about it, you think of the, and this isn't a problem, this is just something that makes my head hurt. You've got Y plus and Y minus, and you would think that that's moving the tool head, but it can't, it moves the bed. So it's kind of inverted. So if you want to move the tool head, if you want to move the bed, anyway, just watch. I'm going to hit this up button, and it's going to go towards me. That's something you just have to get used to. And then Z. This is all, so it's set as running G-Sender, and then it's controlled by GerbelHal, which is the firmware that's being run on the whatever control board that is. I'm certainly not an expert in this. I do have one part that I've made, which was just a test, and is obviously pretty nasty. So I'm still learning, obviously. Needs to be deburred and stuff. This is just playing around, mostly trying to get my dimensions in. What I've found is that in aluminum or like ACM, I've been using that because I just have a ton of it. it's accurate to within about 1/10 of a millimeter. There's some backlash in the mechanism that you just can't get rid of, that I haven't been able to get rid of beyond that point. There is a way to do that in software, but it's sort of weird. I'm not thrilled about how it works. It makes the machine run really jerky because it's trying to compensate for backlash, so I don't have that enabled right now. I'm not going to turn it on because it's literally 3 a.m. and I don't want to terrorize my animals. But yeah, this is the thing. If I had to guess, I've got about $3,500 in it, but a good chunk of that is this build plate. You don't need this. There's an extrusion table that's much cheaper, and the vise. You also don't need the screen. Realistically, you could get by without that if you did the mod to run off a monitor. I think that they may be putting a bigger screen on it in the final release. I haven't checked, but that was something I saw mentioned. Yeah, obviously it cuts aluminum just fine. I don't have any coolant on it yet. I might run a mist to it, but I just haven't gotten that set up yet. It took me a few months to build. A lot of that was getting parts, obviously, and just having the money to do it. It's not a incredibly challenging build, except for perhaps the wiring. If you're not comfortable wiring stuff point to point at multiple voltages and maybe dealing with some AC stuff, that's going to be probably the biggest stumbling block. You need to really build this thing very square. The way I got this as part of the beta, I had all the extrusions, the linear rails, the steppers, and the ball screws. It's ball screws on all 3 axes, by the way. I suspect if I upgraded those to some higher quality ones, I could get a little bit more accuracy, but that's a lot of money that I don't need to spend on it. One thing that's not stock on mine is, I don't know if this is the right size. It is. If I take off this cover plate, these are 3060 extrusions, and I've got epoxy granite cast into all of them where it was possible. So that's just a mix of epoxy, and I used sandblasting medium, just a fine sand that I had. Oh, that's gone. That I had on hand. So that'll rigidify it a tiny bit and maybe help the dampening the vibrations, so you can get a better, cleaner, deeper cut. Whole machine is probably 80 to 100 pounds. It's not something that I would consider portable. I needed a hand to move it because it's awkward. I built it on my cast iron table saw so that I could get everything nice and flat, and getting everything square with good quality squares and machine 1, 2, 3 blocks and stuff is really critical, I think, to get it accurate. This needs to be built better than a 3D printer to me. It's much more critical. If you're trying to get really accurate parts off this, it's not just for function. It's not just for decorative parts. So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna make sure that it's okay for me to post this, and then I'll upload it.